See. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Innovate BC. We're delighted that you've joined us this afternoon. This is, these sessions, this webinar is all about knowledge sharing. It's just growing. It's building our capacity, listening to story, being inspired what other, organizations and nations are doing. So we're glad you're here. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. I'm joining from Amiskwichi, Waskahigan. My name is Michelle. It is a cold day. I feel like winter is here. Last week, I think this time actually was the first real snowfall that happened. So the snow has stuck around, but nonetheless, no matter what season we're in, no matter what the weather says, sunshine or not, rain, snow, we acknowledge and give thanks to Creator for the goodness that's all around us, that we're just so blessed to be part of Creator's world. And we're able to just walk in the best ways, the good ways that we know how. So we give thanks to Creator for all of the gifts, the gift of land, Mother Earth, the animals, the plants, the sacred waters, the medicines, all our relations. So we just take a moment, press pause, extend gratitude for whatever has come our way this day. So we say, hi, Creator. So this is just a great time where we can connect and we can listen and learn. So we're honored you're here. So today's presentation, today's webinar, we got two guest speakers. We're delighted that you could join us this afternoon. So the title is Emergency Response and Training Opportunities. So emergency response needs are increasing across industries and communities. We especially have seen that throughout that pandemic we walked through. So understanding that Indigenous communities are often negatively affected by emergency events due to climate change, increasing operational needs of industry facilities and operations, changes or gaps in policy. So all of that, being involved in all levels of emergency response is important to address the events. So communities have held tremendous amounts of knowledge experience that play a vital role in support to effort. So being prepared is key to mobilizing your community and your members to ensure response is effective. So today's speakers will discuss some case studies that will show how communities can be prepared to be involved with emergency events. So I think that this is really timely, really important to listen to. So today's guest speaker, Kear, is joining from Victoria, BC. So they did have a little bit of snow, but now he says there's nothing but green all around. I'm envious for that kind of landscape. So he is the Director of Indigenous Relations for QM Environmental. So in this role, he heads partnership development, as well as supports Indigenous initiatives and program on projects across Canada. So this gentleman is a Métis Chinese professional who has been walking in multiple worlds since he was born. His father is Métis and his mother is a Chinese immigrant from Hong Kong. So he grew up in Treaty 4 territory in Regina, Saskatchewan. Shout out to Regina. That's where I was born. But this is not about me. This is about Kear. So with a civil engineering background, holding an undergraduate and Master of Applied Science degree in civil engineering from the University of Victoria, he merges education, personal and professional experience with a solutions-based lens. So extensive experience developing partnerships between industry and Indigenous communities. So this guy is doing, I'm just like reading the rest of his bio, doing a lot of like remarkable things, got some really great experience. And then his colleague, we're gonna say, is Whitney, and she's gonna tell us a little bit about herself later on. So this is just a great opportunity for us to take in what our guest presenters are bringing to the table. I think there will be opportunity at the end for any questions or comments, or maybe you have your own story. It's awesome just to be able to have that dialogue. So we welcome you to bring your voice. There will also be a evaluation link sent to you at the end of today's presentation. We love to hear your feedback, and to us, it's really, really integral and important as we plan these webinars. So please fill out that evaluation link, and then your name gets put into a draw. And at the end of the month, we do a big draw. I think it's for like a $500 Visa gift card. So it's a pretty big gift. So the more you fill out those evaluations, the more chance that you have to win. So welcome to our humble webinar today. Thank you for lending your time and your voice. And I'm just passing the virtual mic off to you.
Sure, thank you. I'm actually going to share my screen here. And thanks for such a great intro. Like you said, both Whitney and I are from QM Environmental. And we're here to present about the emergency response work that we're involved in. You did such a great intro for me. I don't know if I can say any more. I am currently living in Victoria, the territory of the Lekwungen people. And Whitney, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Whitney Eatma. I am in Calgary, so a little further south than Michelle, where it's I think colder, maybe, I don't know. I worked in oil and gas for 20 years in capacities of emergency management and Indigenous affairs, and moved to the environmental world almost a year ago and joined QM as their national training manager. So Kear has asked me to come in and help just lend some of my knowledge and experience from within the environmental QM world and from the oil and gas world. We work together quite a bit just because of my background in Indigenous affairs. So thanks for having me this morning. Afternoon, I guess. It's afternoon.
And so if you don't know who QM is, we're formerly known as Quantum Murray. Many of you might know who Quantum Murray is. We're the same company, just rebranded, same great people, same great services. We've been around for over 35 years in some way, shape, or form. We have about over 500 people in the company right now across Canada. And we're well positioned to really meet the evolving needs of the industry, and our industry is growing, just like you were saying, and really able to provide those, the support for large and complex projects, as well as, everyday environmental projects as well. We're also considered one of Canada's largest national environmental services contracting company, with the amount of services that we have under the same roof. Our values are presented here, where we want to achieve zero harm, which is also really great as an environmental company, right? We're going in there and cleaning sites up, so makes us feel really good. And we're doing great work. We're committed to innovation and sustainability. So, not just doing the same old thing, but really trying to find out what the best things are. Working collaboratively with integrity. I think partnerships, especially on my side, and Whitney's seen it as well, that collaboration is really where it's at. You can't be a good partner without both sides working together. Really, and everyone wants to deliver outstanding results, but I think we do. I think through that collaboration and through that partnerships that we're able to move in that way. Really embracing diversity and inclusion. So we're actually a Black-owned company. So a Jamaican Canadian owns us, and a lot of our employees are of people of color and different backgrounds. And acting with integrity and loyalty is something that we do value. So just keeping those in mind, helping us lead the company and guide the company with these values. And again, if you don't know who we are, we provide demolition and decommissioning services. Environmental remediation and water treatment is, by dollar value, our biggest offering as part of the company. Hazardous material abatement. So this is like asbestos training or asbestos removal, mold, that type of stuff. It also includes a bunch of other stuff, but that usually comes to mind when people think about hazmat. Emergency management and response services. So we're going to be talking about what those provide today, but within that group, we also provide training, and that's Whitney's specialty here. And we also have waste management. So in the past, we've had lots of facilities, and we have a handful now, mainly out of Ontario. And Whitney?
So as Kear said, I don't know if I can grab control here, but maybe you can just scroll through as I move through the slides. I work in the emergency response and emergency management department. And the way response works at QM is we've got either client scheduled response, which can involve anything from turnarounds to scheduled cleanups. And then we have emergency response through our emergency activation center that is actually managed by STARS in Calgary. And so what would happen, how it works is that a call would come in to our EAC, and then we would engage a team leader from QM to go out and investigate, dispatch and investigate and assess the situation and figure out what has to be done. We do everything from spill response, like it says there, confined entry, turnarounds, hazmat, all sorts of responses that you could think of. We've been involved. We've been there. So it's worked really well to serve our clients in these two, scheduled and emergency capacities. Next slide, I think. Can you scroll down there, Kear? Or do I?
I think you can actually try.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Nothing? Oh.
Oh, was that me or you? Who did what?
That was definitely you. There you go.
Thank you. So one of the bigger events that we were involved with was 2013 Lac Mégantic in Quebec. Many of you probably heard of it. You couldn't really avoid it if you lived in Canada at the time, but I think it was about more than 70 rail cars full of crude derailed right in the middle of town, and then they caught fire and there were explosions and over 40 people were killed. It was quite a disaster, quite a mess, and really sad. But this is something that we were involved in, and we transferred two of the loaded cars, transferred them out of the area and contained them. And there were a number of companies like ours that were involved in this cleanup. It was so huge, but we were involved in it, and that was a really good learning experience for us, and really unfortunate situation for Quebec and Canada. The next one is not really funny, but it's funny that we work at places like hot dog factories. And so this was a boiler repair at a hot dog factory. The confined space evacuation plans and emergency plans were quite something, because there are a lot of small spaces apparently in hot dog factories, which I did not know until we did this. It was basically, they were cleaning it and repairing it, but you have to have quite extensive plans in place and train people in order to go into these spaces and make sure that nobody is injured and that everything happens according to plan. So we do hot dog factories. The next one is, this is kind of neat, the St. Lawrence Seaway locks. So we were cleaning them and refinishing the jobs both inside and out. It was in the winter, so that added some complexity to it, and we had to have piping involved for ventilation and heat. You can see there in the middle and on the right picture there, but kind of, there's all sorts of different types of response work that we do. And so because of that, we have quite a broad catalog of training offerings for clients as well as for employees to make sure that they're trained and able to do this safely. I think.
Yeah, and we have, yeah, thank you. And so we also have a master service agreement with BC Hydro, as well as other large organizations like SaskPower in Saskatchewan. And so we end up getting called out to do a lot of their emergency response. So at Mica Dam, where this is, we were called out because they had one of their transformers, the oil spilled out of it. So they called us to clean up that oil. And actually through that work, we created partnership with the Okanagan Indian Band and have been actually working on site with them for I think the last 3 years or so, using and training some operators and using their equipment. And so part of that is having those relationships in the area and understanding, but also, you know, having a client who's very much willing to open those doors and make those connections as well. Oh, you're on mute.
That would help if I was not on mute. We offer quite a range of training at QM, like I said before, for both our clients as well as our own responders. And there's a large course catalog, and I'm not going to run through every single course we do, but some of the highlights, the ones that seem to be used more often, are listed here on the screen. And it's for the environmental and industrial services industries, but it also, you know, can be applied to a number of different industries. So we do confined space and rescue, as you saw from the hot dog factory, and high angle rescue, working at heights, basic spill, HAZ awareness, SCBA. So if you're in an oil and gas area, you learn to mask up and protect yourself. Transportation of dangerous goods, respiratory protection, all sorts of courses that would allow, and if you go to the next slide here, that would allow you to work in a number of different industries. Like I talked about, it wasn't just environmental and industrial services, but a number of these other industries listed here: construction, landscaping, property maintenance, infrastructure, public works. A lot of their employees would also require much of the training that QM offers. So we work with a number of different, our clients come from all these industries as well too. So yeah, we can share that catalog at any point if you'd like to see, if anyone wants to see what kind of training we offer, but it's quite broad. And programs have been running for years, so we've got them down and across the whole the entire country. So we've got trainers across Canada that can serve our clients, and that's a lot of what our department does. One of our flagship programs is the Indigenous Competency Program, ICP for short. And we've been in partnership with, we call it NAPAM because it's a mouthful, as you can see there. It's the Niagara Peninsula Aboriginal Area Management Board. This is a program that we've been running for about 10 years. We took, I think, a couple of years off during COVID, but we're back at it again. It's an 8-week job skills and career readiness program in Ontario that we're trying to actually bring across Canada now, but it's currently in Ontario, and it prepares students and youth, Indigenous students and youth, for the job market and full-time employment. So it provides a number, I think it's like over 30 tickets and certifications that these students would need in order to enter the job market. Career development, networking. Many of the graduates are hired by QM. A couple of them are working for us right now. Actually, the lady who runs the program for us is a graduate of this program from years ago. She went and worked in different industries and then, or at different companies, and then came back and is now running our program for the third session that we've had in 2022. So that's really neat to see youth really excel, find their passions, and then get into the industry and career jobs. And that's because of this program and this great partnership we've had for so many years. Oh, and here's our video this is from our spring session out in Ontario. Is the sound on, Kear? Is that okay? I can't hear it so good.
My name is Julie General, and I am a mentor here at QM for the ICP program. Which is a really great opportunity for the Indigenous youth. It's about an 8-week program. It entails 18 different certificates, including hazmat, high angle, confined space rescue, which is also brings you into the high angle rescue that we do as well. It's a really great opportunity for young workers to learn how to identify hazards and how to mitigate hazards in the workplace. With our demolition, we work with the heavy equipment in the program. Emergency response, we definitely touch on the hazmat and basic spill.
You respect the environment, you look after the environment, and well, we here at QM try to clean up the environment after spills occur.
As I am Indigenous myself, I feel really connected to the point that we are taking care of Mother Earth by cleaning up our soils, that we're cleaning them up if there are any accidents that occur. So I think it really hits home with the Indigenous communities.
We here at QM, in partnership with NAPAM, are giving you the ability to try to get you 18 different certificates.
I'm here for the QM ICP program, here to just get more certifications in the trades so that I could possibly get a better paying job.
My expectations of this program would be bettering my resume for working in a trade.
The certificate I'm most excited about getting, it would be confined spaces.
The program that I'm excited about is to take the hazmat. I definitely will say that it sounds like a scary job, but it's something that I would like to engage in and learn more about to further my education in my future.
Stay calm, and if you're getting excited, stop, take a breath, reassess, let's get the job done.
So we're delivering the ICP program, and it's something that we work with our Indigenous partners on, where QM is really able to develop the program in a way that supports the needs of the communities and our partners, while also bringing in the expertise that we have in a professional way for youth. And they can take that knowledge back into their communities, into their careers, and really lower those barriers for them to get jobs.
Really great opportunity for the youth to get out there and build their confidence in terms of where they're going to go in the future with their own careers. Just a lot of really exciting things that they can learn with this program, and really great and excited to be a part of it.
We plan, we train, we respond together.
So that's a video that our marketing team put together after our spring session this year. We've had 2 more sessions since. We had a summer one, and we're just in the middle of our winter one now. It ends just before Christmas. So this is, I don't know what year this graduating group is from. I can't see it, but a couple of the students there were hired by QM. Graduates were hired by QM. Others were all hired by other employers. I know that with our summer session, every graduate was employed within, I think it was within a month of graduation. I think we hired 4 of them, and the other 3 went somewhere else. So it's quite successful. In our group now, I think there are 7 in the course now. They're about halfway through. The lady who's circled there is Julie General, and she's actually the program manager now. So that's many years ago. I think she graduated in 2013 from the program, and now almost 10 years later is running it for us. So that's really great. That's her there. She's our ICP lead and facilitator, and she's fabulous. So really excited to have her on board, and it's just great to have a graduate who's been through their program and then been out in industry and had other experience come back to lead the students. And she's so invested in it and just loves it. She lives and breathes the NAPAM program, which is awesome. So then this is Vince. Vince is a team lead now with QM. He's been around a while, but he's a program graduate as well from a few years ago. I can't remember exactly which year he graduated, but he's been with QM quite a while now. Maybe Kear, you have a better idea of when he started with us, but been a number of years.
Yeah, I think it was 2015.
Yeah,
and
that sounds about right. And he's down east, which is great. Our next one there is Brandon. Brandon's been around quite a while too. He's a team lead as well. And so the fact that they're team leads means that they work their way up too. So they were hired probably as just responders, maybe even casual responders, and now they're up to the team lead position. So definitely the training that they had and the mentorship from QM has helped them to, elevate their careers. And that's great to see. We love seeing graduates, find what they want to do and become passionate and move up. So it's pretty exciting to have employees who came through the program. One of the things that I like to think about when I'm working with communities and Indigenous communities specifically is do you know what the risks are from industry in your communities on your reserves? Because often, I know in oil and gas, there's a regulation. There are regulations around consulting with communities where oil and gas operations are. It's not always as stringent with other industries. And so really getting to know the industries and the companies that are working within your communities, figuring out who the contact people are, and all of this in an effort to make sure that you're as well protected as you could be if something were to go sideways with any of these businesses. And so what kind of products or services are they offering that could potentially go sideways and cause a spill in your area or whatever it may be? And are there emergency response plans? What are the regulations? Is there a contact at these companies that, I mean, many of them, I know in oil and gas for sure, they have to have signage up and there'll be a 1-800 number to call. Just making sure that you're aware. It's advocating for yourself, because although there are regulations in place and companies are in many cases required to consult, just make sure that you're covered off. Know who the contacts are at these companies, know what those emergency numbers are, and get informed. Would be our recommendation personally and through the company. That's what I would recommend. It's just important to know what's going on in your areas and how you might be affected negatively. And maybe in some very remote communities, I know I was meeting with Hartley Bay years ago, it's probably 2016 now, and they were looking at training up a first responder team out there, because if anything went sideways out there, nobody's getting to them to help them for quite a while. And so they were taking it into their own hands, figuring out who in the community they could train as in first aid and initial response and that sort of, in those sort of functions, so that until rescue services arrived or whatever it may be, it's a fly in and fly out community there, they could look after themselves for a period of time. So those are the kinds of things that I like to talk to communities about and like to remind them of, and it can just be helpful if you ever end up in a situation where you've got a rail car that's flipped over, is leaking onto your land or whatever it may be.
Yeah, the other side too is you hold a lot of knowledge in your territory, right?
Absolutely.
If you have people going out there and hunting, and they know the territory better than probably most people in the cities or most emergency responders who are coming from out of the area.
Absolutely.
And so understanding who and what is happening in your territories will also help you be part of that response, even if you don't have, you know, that ER training that we presented here. And that's, I think, what was seen with the wildfires a couple of years ago in BC, where a lot of the communities were like, you know, it's going to go this way, and that's the way it went. And when they did a debrief after those emergency response events, they actually figured out that, hey, we should have been listening to the Indigenous communities all along, because we didn't, and this is what happened. So really, you know, knowing and understanding, hey, you know what, I know what you guys are doing there, that's not okay because XYZ, and you know, using that experiential knowledge in a way that, you know, some training just can't do. The other thing is, you know, with these programs and with our industry, it's changing. And just like Michelle in the beginning and in the introduction, the industry, and right now it's hard to hire people, right? Like it's a really hard time. It's trying to find employees. Everyone's competing for a smaller and smaller pool, while the environmental industry and the emergency response needs are growing. You know, just like Whitney said, is all our graduates in the last two cohorts have been 100% hired. And a big part of that is because there's more industry, there's more population, there's just bigger projects now, ever-changing regulations. So a lot of regulations are old and they're just getting revamped, or they're finding new chemicals and new contaminants of concern, right? So those regulations are always changing. So it's not something where you're like, hey, I'm doing this and I never have to learn again, right? It's something where people, it's a dynamic industry. So, it might, you always need to stay on top of things. Demographics are changing, right? So baby boomers, my dad's, a baby boomer, and he's getting pretty long in the tooth now, right? And all of them are now kind of hitting that retirement age. So it's creating this huge gap in the market because people who were there for literally 40 years are retiring. So we need young people, we need middle-aged people, we need people in the industry, and it's never too late or too early to start working and start in this industry. Indigenous communities, on reserve communities, people are wanting to go back home, right? They're sick and tired of living in cities, or their reserves and their home communities are growing and more services are available. So there's actually a small influx of people going into community. And so if that's part of that learning and availability, that, there's going to be more environmental needs at home too. And, on top of that, communities are being included on large projects now more than ever. I think it's really unprecedented. Actually, Whitney and I have talked about this, where in oil and gas, it's kind of old news, right? You have to talk to community. In construction, it's new news, right? So it's like, oh, there's all this cool stuff happening. And then people like Whitney are like, yeah, no, you're like a couple decades late to the trough. But it's a reality.
At least it's
right?
happening though, right? At least it's happening.
That's right. And I think that's the other side of this, is when there's more demand. Like on one of our projects, we actually just had a small spill. And the client, phoned the communities. We phoned the communities because I have that relationship with them. And they were like, oh, thanks, right? And so everyone in the community is now being involved, but that also means a higher demand of people and understanding of these things, which is good for QM, because we're growing too. So, if you want to get into this industry, definitely reach out. And we've worked everywhere across Canada, coast to coast to coast. We've worked with lots of communities in lots of different capacities, and lots of dollar values. So, it depends on the community, it depends on the project, but we do have that long history of working together. So again, if something comes up, if you have an environmental concern, if you have a training concern, any of those things, we're definitely here to help. Or if we're not there, we can definitely connect you with somebody who can help. Happy to open the floor. We didn't want to take too long, and it's getting close. I guess it's the long weekend coming up, so I don't know how many people are going to be staying, but we have room, I think, a fair bit of time for questions. So if Ken or May or Michelle, or Elsie, if she's still on, if anyone wants to have any questions or seek any answers from us, let's have some time.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kear and Whitney, for your presentation, letting us know what's going on with QM. I really love the respond, reclaim, renew. That's just really feels good to hear that there's, organization like you that is really putting in that effort to really care and look after our lands. So that's awesome. We're opening the floor to any questions or comments. Feel free to just jump on in, use the chat box.
If I don't jump in, I know Michelle will will ask me. So I was going to wait it out, but I thought I'd, since you got some time. What I've got here is in the video there that you had, the one gentleman was talking about under pressure, taking a deep breath. Reminded me of a U.S. Navy SEAL quote. It's under pressure, you do not rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. So so like train. If you got nothing better to do, train, because when you're doing nothing, you should be training so that when something does occur, and when you're busy, your training will jump in and it falls away. There's a learning curve, but there's also a forgetting curve. So, hey, that's it for me. That's my second free one.
I love that. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, and it is, right? And part of that comes with training, part of that comes with just who you are sometimes. But definitely in this industry, and especially in emergency response, you have to keep a level head. So you want to be able to make those right decisions when you need it. But it's also a very some of these events are long, right? So our responders are there for long hours. But it often feeds into those types of personalities who are wanting to work those long hours, all at once. So it's good too.
Thanks, Ken. We always appreciate your voice here. Anybody, I feel like May, you've had your hand up since the beginning, so I don't know if you have a question, but also just letting you all know as well that this presentation, the PowerPoint, will be sent to you after today's webinar, so you'll have access to just go back and read more, look into it a little bit more as well.
Thank you. I will say, sorry, I'm just a bit sick, so I'm not looking my best, so I'm just gonna keep my camera off. But I work for the Aboriginal Housing Management Association in BC here, and I've got a pilot project that I'll also be working with Indigenous youth, trying to get them in the green building sector. So we're doing a retrofit of a 50-year-old cabin, and we're basically bringing it up to passive house standards. And so I think it'd be really fun maybe to have, Kear or both of you and Whitney to come on as speakers or try and do training possibly. I can totally send you guys an email sort of with the full detail, and we can discuss that later.
Yeah, definitely. I could put our emails in the chat if that's helpful for you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
And where are you? Where's the training happening?
So it's at the Checkmas Center, which is up in Squamish.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Actually, Whitney is going to be in Vancouver, I think, next week.
Okay. The program hasn't started yet, but yeah, for sure. We will. Yeah, I'll keep you up to date on that.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great, and you guys are doing great work. Last time I was in Haida Gwaii, I actually ran into project coordinator or project manager with you. I can't remember his name right now, but yeah.
Oh, that's so great to hear. Yeah, we've got a great crew of people, but you guys are doing excellent work as well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. I'm smiling so big because I love when those connections can be made, and especially for our young people, right? This is really, really essentially why we're here. We want to, create those paths for our young people, opportunities for our young people. All right, Jake, come on in.
Hello, bonjour, Wajier. I was in this field for quite a long time, so this is practically my neck of the woods. And as a long-time firefighter and search and rescue for the military, that do you guys have, after your debriefing sessions, do you guys have any protocols for like psychological assessment right afterwards as a protocol? Because like I come from an isolated reserve, and some of these things are offered, but even me, one of my biggest mistakes back in the day was I had that tough guy mentality, right? I don't think I needed it. So, but after a while, I started having all these anxieties. I didn't know why, and the breathing difficulties. and it was from the PTSD that I experienced, and it was pretty bad. On top of that, I was getting PTSD from the PTSD, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So maybe if there's something that could be implemented, a stricter protocol after experiencing all these traumatic events that you're there to save people, but even on the brightest day, you can't save everyone, and
Mhm.
these things actually happen, right?
Mhm.
And the karma
Yeah.
just follows you.
Yeah, I'm not Whitney. I don't know if you can comment to that on our side.
I'm
One
sorry, I
of
couldn't hear anything, so I'll need
yeah,
someone else to ask that question. I couldn't hear, I could hear a little bit of a voice, that's it.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
Jake,
oh, go ahead, Kear.
Jake, you're coming in pretty quiet, but I cranked my volume. So essentially what I heard, Jake, was that you're asking what kind of mental health support we have for emergency responders in our group. Is that right?
Yeah, like, could you hear me better now?
Well, we have a company-wide EPA, so Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, sorry, EAP. But nothing specific for our responders, but it's for employees in general. So any employee who is dealing with anything traumatic can use that service.
Yeah.
But there isn't one specifically for responders, if that's what you're asking. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, for
Yeah, and
responders.
one of the things I think that kind of sets our business apart from maybe first responders, like firefighters, like the work that you've done, even though many of our responders are actually firefighters as well,
They are, yes.
is that a lot of the work that we're going to is often contaminated sites related. So if there's a spill, let's say like the Lac
It's environmental type, yeah.
that's right. So we would be focusing mainly on the environmental spills, and yeah, if something comes up where an employee runs into something that's traumatic that we hope they bring it up with us, and then they can enter that EAP program that Whitney's talking about. But nothing specifically on ER, but it is definitely a good point to bring up.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Jake, for that was a really valuable question. So really appreciate also, a little bit of background to why you're asking that. So we honor your story. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm sorry for being a little too quiet, because that's just my voice. I gotta really hold the mic up to my mouth just to I'm quiet. So, but if
Yeah.
I'm on the field, like, oh, you would hear me. Oh yeah, and another thing there was with these trainings being kind of, you were saying they were kind of outdated, and modernizing some of the training that's being given out there. As a company, do you guys do training on the old-fashioned MSAs, the breathing apparatus, the big clunky with the bell MSAs?
I'm not entirely sure what kind of equipment that is. I'm actually not the ER side. I'm not as familiar with. But we are, training the trainees with a lot of the newer equipment that they'd be using in the field. So they're prepped to be able to get into it. Similarly, with anyone working with us, is we're trying to use the newest equipment and stuff like that, so that people are protected, to the best way possible. I'm not sure if we provide training on kind of historic equipment and stuff like that, but mainly just on the job kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I come around the region where I was looking at the map there, and I saw Muskrat Dam. So that's my neck of the woods there. We were actually connected through the Severn River. So The Seven Rivers, my hometown. Not the reserves, but the river itself is the hometown. And
Cool.
most of the isolated communities up there are not are not uh, too privileged to or lucky enough just to get the modern equipment as
Mm,
where I come from. Like we did a lot of paperwork to get the modern equipment like the SCBA units, the Scott packs, and we even had some of the old fashioned MSA breathing apparatus, which is
okay.
like the real heavy steel tanks.
Mm,
So
mhm.
that's why I was saying like the really old stuff. And even then, once we know some of the surrounding communities that do not have any of these apparatuses, that we go out of our way to donate them and pass things along.
Mm,
Because like I went through like three different bunker gears throughout my tenure.
okay.
So even then, like I was so proud to give it off. I don't know who I gave it to, but I just wrote a note there saying, like brother, stay safe out there. Just put a note in
Yeah.
the pocket.
Yeah, yeah, and I think access to equipment is hugely important. So just like what Whitney was talking about is when you reach out to the companies in your areas and understand the different risks that are there, that it helps you start thinking about and start prioritizing, your equipment needs, because different chemicals will require different materials, and just like Jake, you're saying, the equipment you're using is hugely important to your safety. And so you want it to be in good working order, and you want to use it, right? You want to do those drills, you want to make sure the air tanks are full with fresh air and stuff like that. So I definitely, if there are communities that need more equipment or they're more remote, that I think that some provinces will have funds to be able to fund that type of equipment, and also maybe get leverage other funds for training and buildings. Again, depending on where you are, I know that ISK in BC now, I think is funding more emergency firefighter kind of divisions in the interior because of the wildfires that happened a couple of years ago. So, often that grant money flows reactively, not proactively. So again, part of that is learning what those risks are in your area so that you can go to those different funding bodies and say, hey, we need some equipment. We might not need like a whole battalion worth of equipment, but we need some. And starting those conversations by saying, this is the industry that we see, and these are the risks that we've had, and maybe include some of that planning within your comprehensive community plans, or working with those industry partners to say, you're going to call us, we need people, we need training. And that's something where, for the training side and the people side, we can help support that, until you are able to get on your feet, because that's what I've seen too, with many of the partnerships that I have, is our partners aren't maybe fully equipped or fully able to take on stuff now, but it's taking those steps to be able to say, okay, well, what do you need to get there, and where do you want to allocate your energy and resources?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for coming on into this conversation. So I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm ready for a hot dog. All that talk early on, like who knew, right? But fascinating, really fascinating presentation. I love the program, the training. I think that is important and integral. I loved the video. I always am moved by story and hearing, participants and how they're moving up in their field. And so I just love that. So Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Thank you for lending your time, and it's always inspiring to be able to hear what other organizations are doing and industry is doing. So thank you for being here. We honor you. Thank you all for joining us. Again, you all will receive a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation. So make some time to go through that. So thank you so much for being with us. And as you go on your day, I hope that you will go and know that, you belong in Creator's world, that you do not walk alone. Our ancestors are always cheering us on. So continue to do those good things that you're doing in your work, your home, your life, and walk in a good way. So take care, and we'll see you all again.
Thank you, Michelle.
Peace.